All right, just moments ago, we did see President Trump put this out on Truth Social saying the meeting with President Volodymyr Zelenskyy of Ukraine was very interesting and cordial, but I told him, as I likewise strongly suggested to President Putin, that it is time to stop the killing and make a deal. Enough blood has been shed, with property lines being defined by war and guts. They should stop where they are. Let both claim victory. Let history decide. No more shooting, no more death, no more vast and unsustainable sums of money spent. This is a war that would have never started if I were president. Thousands of people being slaughtered each and every week. No more. Go home to your families in peace there. So that is the statement as President Trump is now wheels up and in the sky. They're heading to Mar-a-Lago, West Palm Beach in Florida. I want to continue to, though, talk about this in-demand meeting that we saw today at the White House. I want to bring in our next guest to help break it all down. This is Davis Richardson, CEO of American Ukrainian Strategic Partners. Great to have you on, Davis, again. And first off, what were your thoughts on this meeting today? And we'll get to what President Trump said in just in a moment. But what did you think about the meeting that we were able to see on air?
Well, my hot take, Mike, is that this is actually the best conversation that we've seen between both of the leaders. The first meeting at the White House, it was very contentious. You saw the questions raised about Ukrainian President's suit. The second one was kind of a recalibration. We need to get into a position where, we need a reset of the relationship. Whereas this third meeting, I think, was the most productive because now you're in the weeds of what does this deal actually look like. And I have some comments on from both sides, which I'd also be happy to walk through.
Yeah, and what were some of the real talking points here? Because we saw that President Trump talking about in that Truth Social saying, okay, he wants to have it, enough is enough. He wants to say, okay, let's just stop where it is right now, just call it. What do you think Zelenskyy thought about that, and what can we see going forward here in this war?
I think you got a little bit of insight into both leaders' thinking during this meeting. President Trump continually raised the issue of Tomahawk missiles. That's Trump's leverage in the negotiation. But when you rewatch this, the press conference meeting with President Zelenskyy, you also see Zelenskyy continually bring up Ukrainian drone capabilities. This is a narrative that the Zelenskyy administration has also been heavily pushing in Ukrainian press about the drone deal, which they've estimated at a $35 billion deal with the United States. So in the lead up to this meeting, there was a lot of articles that appeared in Ukrainian press about this deal. So that's what President Zelenskyy is working with there.
And what's so good about these Ukrainian drones, and why would they be beneficial to the U.S.?
Well, it's drones, but when you read between the lines of it, it's also the frontline data that a lot of these companies have captured. America produces a lot of drones that are all very good, but Ukraine's have really been battle tested, and you can't say that you're a real drone company unless you've performed under fire. So, as we spoke about yesterday, Ukraine really did not have defense capabilities before 2022, but you have an entire defense base which has really emerged the last few years, and that's the marriage, and those are the negotiations that are in discussions where how do you marry these two absolutely incredible countries' industries.
And we heard Zelenskyy talk a lot today about security guarantees. What does that look like? And maybe just to explain to our viewers what he is trying to establish here when it comes to these negotiations.
Well, President Zelenskyy has a moral obligation to his people. Nobody ever wants to see a repeat of this war. And candidly speaking, negotiations that have taken place under past presidential administrations have not brought peace or security for Ukraine. So whatever agreement comes to, there needs to be guarantees that this is not just going to happen again. Russia has continually, over the past few decades, every time Ukraine starts to build itself up, Russia comes in and cuts it off at its knees. So whatever negotiation does happen, it needs to be a just and lasting peace, and that's what President Trump is working towards.
I want to show a case, the statement there that President Trump just did on Truth Social. I just want to read out the moment here where I think a lot of people will be talking about this, where President Trump says they should just stop where they are, let both claim victory, let history decide. I mean, that's great on paper, but do you think that Putin would ever go along with that, or even Zelenskyy?
Well, Trump's a deal guy. And I think, based on the negotiating tactics that you're seeing with President Trump and Zelenskyy, I mean, this was very much a negotiation. It was a meeting about peace, but it's negotiating the frameworks in terms of what does the United States very practically get out of this situation, of which Ukraine has a lot to offer. So if it's one party that doesn't want peace or appears not to, I'd say it's President Putin right now, who, after First Lady Melania Trump wrote this beautiful letter about the abducted Ukrainian children, Russia responded by firing a ballistic missile into a children's hospital. So, Russians or the Russian government, these are total psychopaths. But if it's one person who can deal with a killer, it's someone who's survived multiple assassination attempts like President Trump.
That's such a great point right there. And lastly, here we talk about the next meeting with President Trump and President Putin. What does President Trump really have to do to gear up for that meeting to put maximum pressure on Putin to end this war?
Well, thanks, Mike. As we talked about a little bit yesterday, United States has a lot of cards in this. The main one I would also highlight is there's billions of dollars in frozen Russian assets scattered all over Europe. Just unlocking those and using that to fund Ukraine's defense, that's a serious negotiating chip that President Trump has. And there's also, depending on what the discussions have been, the specifics about the drone deal, we want to see a technology bridge between the United States and Ukraine and lessons learned from the battlefield, and both of these militaries really complementing one another. So even that is a significant part going into these discussions with Russian President Putin.
There we go. So true. Davis Richardson, thanks so much for joining us once again on Live Now from Fox. Definitely fast moving, a couple of days gearing up for this meeting. We really appreciate it, as always, on Live Now.
Thanks, Mike.